What's up, everybody? It's Frederick Douglass Bussey back for another whiteboard session, minus the whiteboard. Got a lot going on here, and we're actually 3 minutes late getting started for today's session. But I want to talk about something kind of crucial, something that a lot of people may talk about, but most people don't. And that is why education can keep you stuck in your business. Why education can keep you stuck. Let's go to work. All right, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. The mic is working well. Checking the settings here to make sure we're all good. Today we're talking about why education can keep you stuck, and there's really three reasons I want to talk about here. For those of you who may have gone to college, education, is something that a lot of people really tout. The funny thing is that only about 26% of people in the country ever get a college degree, right? And so a few more people go to college, but if you can afford to go, going can be a thing that seems out of reach for a lot of people. And then you have entrepreneurship, which is a path that even fewer people take. And so it's a lot less misunderstood. And so the idea, though, is that one thing that keeps people from either starting as an entrepreneur or becoming more successful is the fear that they don't know enough, right? And so there are people who say, well, maybe I should go get an MBA, or maybe I should get a business degree, or I need to take more classes or education. And when I'm talking about education, I'm talking about formal education. I'm talking about even the fact of going through, kindergarten, high school. I know there are different other forms of education, actually forms in the UK and Caribbean and in Africa and different places around the world where you may be watching this. There are people who are literally saying, education is the key to being successful. And you may feel like, well, I don't have enough education, so I can't be successful in business. And the fact of the matter is that it doesn't require an education. Education is not what we think it is. Education is not just a formal process. Education is learning, and you need to be able to learn. But there are three reasons really why we struggle in business, and there are some ways that it shows up. And I just want to talk about these real quick today to emphasize that if you are stuck in your business, there may be some things that you have going on that you're not even aware of. And we can kind of dive into that. And one of the reasons I'm talking about this is because actually tomorrow, December 6th at 1 p.m. Eastern time, we're doing our $1 Million Year Masterclass where we talk about how you can discover that blueprint for building a 7-figure business in 12 months or less. And if you want to be able to do that, then there are some things that you need to understand. And what we're talking about here today could be some barriers, some resistance that you may be bumping up against that's keeping you from actually hitting that goal, hitting that target. And so what are we talking about? Well, there are three things I want to talk about today about why education can keep you stuck in your business. And one of those first ways is that it teaches you that failure is bad, right? And when I say that, you're in school and a teacher asks you to raise your hand to get the answer, right? And what happens when you raise your hand and your answer is wrong? You feel bad. You feel ashamed, embarrassed, whatever the case may be. If you get the wrong answer on the test and you get your test back, the teacher typically marks it in red. This is wrong, right? You get your grade and it's marked in red. And so the more red marks you have, the more fails you have, the more stains that there are basically on your psyche. And so what we do typically is we tell children even, right, that if you get good grades, you are a good student. And if you get bad grades, you are a bad student. And so good and bad becomes associated with those who fail less are good and those who fail more are bad. And so if you have that in your head, you understand education versus entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is all about failure. You can only get to success by going through failure. You have to learn what doesn't work. You have to be able to be willing to risk rejection, to be able to risk this more. And so sometimes the reason why you are stuck in your business is that even if you have gotten started and you've got $10,000, $20,000 a month, $50,000 a month, there is a barrier that we all bump up against where we are afraid to fail at the next level. right? So for me, even I used to be afraid of launching a podcast because I was afraid that I would not know what to do. Like there's always the fear of not knowing how to do something. And that feeling that you have inside of you, a lot of times comes from education. That fear of that belief that failure is wrong, right? And if failure is wrong, failure is bad, then why would you want to do something that makes you bad? Hi, Amy. How are you? Good to see you. Um, we want to make sure that we're not internalizing that belief, which so many of us do time and time again, right? Amy said it keeps you chasing something rather than doing something. An underlying feeling of not being enough and wanting more, wanting one more thing. I think that's dead on, right? And we might talk about that a little bit more. But the first belief that failure is bad, and failure, if we could reframe what failure is experimentation, right? And so you run an experiment. There is no good or bad. There is just learning. I now discovered what it means when I do this thing, when I put this formula together, right? I can't understand how I messed up if I don't know where that step was. And so I'm not saying that teachers are bad or that teachers are trying to make children feel bad, but there are many teachers that do because they focus more on the getting the right answer versus understanding the process. And so you can't understand the process if you're not willing to do what? Fail, right? Another thing that education teaches you, or it keeps you stuck in your business, is that it teaches you that there's only one right way to get an answer, right? And so typically in school they teach you a formula or a path forward, and maybe sometimes there's multiple paths, right? So maybe there's one or two ways to get it, but typically they want you to follow a certain path to get a certain result. And so while that is true, what happens for us in business a lot of times is if we're not getting the result that we want, we start looking for what is the technique to make this happen. And so what we don't do is we don't step back and examine, why do I even want the outcome that I want, right? Why is the outcome necessary? And kids actually ask this a lot in school. They say, why do I have to learn this, right? And typically we tell them, well, you're going to need this because if you want to get a job, or you're going to need this because if you want to do X, Y, and Z, right? But the outcomes that we're talking about for business actually need to be more substantial and significant for it to be a sustainable process of learning and growing. And what we typically don't do in education is allow for that curiosity. We're not allowed to question the process at all. And if you can't question the process, then you can't understand it and be able to maximize it as well. Okay, great. So you did the one activity. We're going to do the next page, okay? Mike. All right. You're going to sit here and talk to the people? All right. So, for instance, with my youngest, right, having to teach her how to do different things, right? So we're always in the process of discovery and figuring out what's next. And so there's more than one right way to do it. Now, when you're foundationally teaching them how to write a letter or numbers or to do math or whatever the case may be, you're teaching them how to do something initially. But if there's only one way to get one answer, then you can never innovate. You can never move to the next level. And so I think that's a challenge that we face a lot of times as entrepreneurs, because we are trying to figure out what is the right thing to do, right? What is the right technique versus what is my understanding of the outcome that I'm trying to create? And then I can reverse engineer what that next solution can be, right? So the last part is the third thing that we want to learn from today is what education can do to keep you stuck in your business is that it teaches you that not knowing the answer is a bad thing, right? And so it kind of goes to the first part, to the number one lesson that we have for today. But in reality, we think that we're expected to know the answer. So you're expected to read the book and know the answers to the test, right? And so that can be daunting, because if you feel like you don't know the answer, then you feel like you are dumb, you're inadequate, you're not right, right? You're not good enough. And so a lot of shame and those emotions come up around this whole process of not knowing the answer. And so we can obsess about that. I don't know the answer, so I'm stuck in that head. Instead of being taught to be curious and figure out the answer. Because if they give you the books to read and they tell you that these are the books you need to read, this is the information you're supposed to have, you are expected to know the answer in school, right? Because we gave you all the answers. This is where the answers are, right? And so one of the genius things about Google is that it allowed you to ask any question whatsoever and you can get the answer. But the thing that's interesting about that is that the answers you get depend on how you ask the question. And so it's more important to know what question I need to ask and how should I phrase this question to get a different outcome, to get the answer, versus having to know the answer. In business, when you are building something of significance, you got to be able to know how to do that. And those who are the most successful are the ones who know how to ask the right questions to get the right outcomes time and time again. So again, to recap, these are the three ways that education can keep you stuck in your business, right? Number one, it teaches you that failure is bad. Number two, it teaches you that there's only one right way to get an answer. And number three, it teaches you that not knowing the answer is a bad thing. And none of those things are true, especially in business. You got to be able to, one, understand that failure is the fastest way to succeed, that it teaches you that there's more than one right way to get an answer or to create the outcome, and that not knowing the answer can be a good thing, especially when you remain curious and you use that curiosity to leverage it and to be able to help you to move forward. All right, so let me know what you're discovering in this whole process as well. Has this been helpful for you? What are some things that you have discovered about education versus entrepreneurship that may have been helpful or harmful even in what you're doing, right? And what can we do to be able to implement and be more successful in our businesses going forward? In the comments, I'm dropping a link for those of you who have not yet had a chance to register for the $1 Million a Year Masterclass. We have oversubscribed to the program already. It's going to be 90 minutes of a deep dive blueprint for discovering how to build a 7-figure business in 12 months or less. I'm very, very excited. We're going to have a great energy. We're going to have some free giveaways, a ton of things. For those of you who have registered, I want you to make sure that you're also checking out the pre-trainings in the 7-Figure Circle $1 Million Mastermind Facebook group. We're doing those as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do another bonus pre-training today to help you get more geared up. I don't know who gives you an entire 5-part series to prepare you for the masterclass. Most people just have a masterclass and throw it at you. I want you to be 100% ready. I want to make sure that you're there to show up. And I want to make sure that you are empowered to get the most out of this class that you possibly can. So if you've not yet registered, the link is below in the comments, whether you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. If you have registered already, then I encourage you to make sure that you are there. Book it in your calendar, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter where you are in the world. And also, we're doing a special VIP session, a Q&A session, so you can upgrade to that. You're going to get a ton of freebies. You're going to get access to some other courses and information that we have, as well as a 1-hour Q&A session with me one-on-one, where you can ask a question specifically regarding what you've got going on, so you can get the most out of this event. You don't want to just show up and get the blueprint, but you want to know how you can actually start to implement it to build this thing and make it possible. All right. So Amy says she has a few old gremlins running around in her head when it comes to this education piece. Look, we all do. We've all been educated or taught by people who are educated traditionally in some way. And so there's a process that we have to do to kind of uninstall these limiting beliefs and these things that are kind of holding us back. So anytime we're stuck, realize that if you're stuck in your business, it means that you're stuck in your head in some way. There's a way that you're not seeing your business, the world, things in particular, so you can be able to make that happen, manifest that. And so if that's the case, I encourage you to hop on this masterclass. I encourage you to reach out to me, send me a message and see it would be a good fit to work together in one of our coaching programs as well. And let's not allow the things that we thought we knew, or things that we thought, the way that we thought the world was supposed to be, to keep us from getting what we really want to get in our business. So we want to make sure that we're really leaning into that, and we're empowering you in the most powerful way possible. Amy, you need to upgrade. Let's do that. I hope to see you in the Q&A session as well. Look, it's $1,500 of value. We're giving that for $47 just for the Q&A session. The masterclass is at no charge to you. The only investment is your 90 minutes to make sure you're there, present, fully engaged, taking notes, writing things down. When we walk away from there, I want every entrepreneur, every person in that group to be well on their way to hitting their 7-figure year. All right. $1 Million Year Masterclass. Thanks for all of you for checking in. If you watch this for a second or for a minute, great. Let me know in the comments what you are discovering. If you're watching this on replay, hashtag replay, let me know what you're discovering as well. All right. And as always, I'm Frederick Douglass Bussey. What's your name? You can tell people your name. This is Elea. Ever forward.